product review. Today's review is going to be on the brand new, just released NZXT Function Keyboard. And we'll get into the specifications and what I think about it and all of that. But as usual, we're gonna start off by talking about the design and the build quality. Now, as far as the design is concerned, this keyboard is available in 3 different sizes. It's available in a traditional full-size layout for $150, a full-size TKL, kind of more of a traditional TKL layout, for $130, and it's available in what they refer to as a mini TKL, which starts at $120, which is the one that we have here today. And I think there's going to be a market for the full size and the full size TKL, but I believe that most people are probably going for this version right here. It provides pretty much all of the same keys from a full size TKL, but it kind of just scrunches everything together in a smaller package, kind of a little bit of a more compact form factor, which is kind of where this gaming mechanical keyboard market is right now for the stock price, $150, $130, or $120. But you can also go into their website and kind of somewhat customize this keyboard. You can pick out a variety of switches and keycaps and things like that, kind of personalize it a little bit, but that does come with an increased cost. Now, we've already kind of covered the layout here. Now, if you get this keyboard stock, it does come with shine through ABS keycaps. If you go through the build program like I did, it comes with PBT. But other than the difference between the shine through, the design for the keycaps is going to look very similar. On the left-hand side here is probably one of the most interesting parts of this keyboard. It does have a volume scroll wheel here on the side, and I actually really like the placement of that volume knob. It also has 3 buttons on the side. The one on the top controls the mute, so you can mute and unmute your volume here. The middle button controls the Windows lock so that you can lock that Windows key. If you're in the middle of a game, you're not going to activate that by accident. Some people really like that, kind of a game mode, so to speak. And the third button on the side here controls the brightness of the LEDs. It can go from off to 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100% brightness. So that's kind of convenient if you just want to turn off the backlighting. On the back, you do get 5 rubber bump-ons, which are going to make sure that the keyboard stays firmly planted on your desk or your desk pad, whatever your typing surface is. You also get 2 stage height adjustable feet, which give you a total of 3 different typing angles. Also on the back here, you do get a flush USB-C port, so this should fit most aftermarket USB-C cables. Now, I mentioned to you that I would point out the differences between the sizes of the keyboards, and one of the things that pertains to the design is the fact that the full size and the full size TKL keyboards both come with a wrist rest, and that does magnetically attach to the bottom of the keyboard. The mini TKL does not. But really, especially with the 3 different typing angles that this keyboard offers, I don't really think that's necessary anyways. And that's pretty much it for the actual design of the keyboard. Some of this stuff is going to look a little different because, again, you can customize it. You can also choose between a couple of different colors. So as far as the color scheme is concerned, that's going to vary a little bit. But that's it for the actual design of the keyboard. Now, as far as the build quality is concerned, it's pretty good. I have no issues with the case. Even under a considerable amount of pressure, there's no real bending or flexing of the case itself. There's no creaking. The scroll wheel feels really good. It's got kind of these individual steps that you can feel in between. You can probably hear that as well. The texturized rubber that they use for this does feel a little bit on the cheap side, but I don't think that it's going to fade or peel or crack or anything like that. The buttons on the side feel very solid and tactile, although I will say, I don't know if it's a spring that's inside of there or what, but sometimes when you release it, you get almost this ping from the inside. As far as durability is concerned, that's not an issue, but it is something you notice when you're looking at a keyboard that costs upward of $120. And so I do just want to make you aware of that. As far as the durability of the keyboard is concerned, I have no real issues. I think it's built very well. Even the feet on the back feel very sturdy. There's no wobble or play or anything like that in there. But from an overall quality standpoint, it does feel, especially because this keyboard is so light, and you combine the fact that it is very light mixed with the fact that the rubber texture here just kind of feels a little bit on the cheap side, and the kind of pinging that you get from those side buttons at times. It does make this keyboard feel like it's not as premium as that $120+ price tag. Especially considering this keyboard does have an aluminum top plate, you would think that would add a little bit of heft to it, but for the size of this keyboard, it does feel a lot lighter than you would expect. As far as specifications are concerned, this keyboard offers 1000 Hertz polling rate, in-key rollover, 4 different selectable profiles. If you get this keyboard stock, it comes with ABS keycaps. If you go through the build program, you're typically selecting between PBT keycaps. It is offered in a variety of Gatoron switch types, and if you buy it stock, it comes with Gatoron Reds, which are a pretty good linear switch, especially if you're using this primarily as a gaming keyboard, which most of you will be. That is the target audience for this keyboard. Those should be fine, but if you go through their build program, they do have a variety of Gatoron switch types to choose from, and full RGB backlighting, which is able to be controlled through their NZXT cam software, which I'll show you a little bit later in the video. And this keyboard is using plate mounted stabilizers. And of course, it is a hot swap PCB, and it's a 5-pin. So if you have 3 or 5-pin switches, no problem, no clipping of the switches are going to be required or anything like that. Now, when you come to the build portion of their website, the layout is actually going to be very similar to how it looks when you build a PC on their website. There's a variety of things to choose from the keyboard size, color, layout, switches, the color of the keycaps, and when you're making these additional selections, you can see the subtotal down here change, and it will also show your estimated shipping date. You will notice the base price is $130 instead of $120, and that's because of the keyboard standard assembly for $9.99, and that's essentially for them assembling the keyboard with your switch and keycap type. So their website is really intuitive and easy to use. Now moving on and talking about the software, this does use NZXT Cam, which a lot of you already may have on your PC, especially if you already own any type of NZXT PC components. But if not, just download the NZXT software. And on the left-hand side here, you see a keyboard. And this is where you're going to program macros and control your lighting functions. You can see here on the top left, there are 4 different onboard profiles. Under the lighting tab, you can control your different lighting functions as well as your reactive modes. And there's other things you can control here, like the speed of the RGB functions and remap keys. This is where you're going to remap any of your keys, program your macros. You can pretty much just drag and drop any of these onto whatever key you are trying to program. So the software for the keyboard is very basic. However, it does allow you to do pretty much most of the things that you're looking to do on the keyboard. One thing that is important to note here is that the volume scroll wheel as well as the side buttons are not remappable. So do keep that in mind, especially that volume scroll wheel. A lot of people keep that as is, but there are a lot of people that typically remap that to something else. And at least at the moment, that isn't an option with this keyboard. Also, one thing I didn't even cover is this NZXT button here that doesn't seem to do anything, which is very ironic because when they first announced the release of this keyboard on their social media platforms, specifically Twitter and Instagram, one of the first things they said was they showed a shot of this NZXT key and they were like, I wonder what this does. And people were speculating in the comments, oh, you press it to bring up the NZXT cam software, or maybe it takes you to the NZXT website. There were all kinds of guesses on what that button would do, but I guess the answer is it doesn't do anything. Even function NZXT doesn't do anything. Maybe that's something that will be updated in the firmware or something. I don't know. I don't know what that key's supposed to do, but I thought that was really funny considering they were asking when they announced this keyboard, hey, what do you think this key does? I guess it doesn't do anything. And now we'll finish up with a quick sound test. Again, this is with the Gatoron Red switches. As you can hear, the sound on this keyboard is frankly not very good at all. And it's not because of the switches. I've used Gatoron Red switches quite a bit, you can make those switches sound pretty good, even stock, without lubing them or anything like that. They're not a bad sounding linear switch. This whole keyboard though doesn't sound that great, but the thing about it is these are probably the worst sounding stabilizers that I've heard out of a pre-built gaming keyboard in quite some time. Especially that space bar, that's just not good at all. I think there's a few reasons for that, primarily being the fact that these stabilizers are bone dry. There is not a drop of lube on these things, and it shows. You can hear the hollowness, you can hear spacebar rattle. There's a lot to be desired if sound is important to you when you're buying a mechanical gaming keyboard, which for a lot of people it is. It doesn't sound great, which ties into my overall thoughts on this keyboard, which is I really can't recommend it. And I really don't want to make it seem like I'm trashing NZXT here, because I love their other products. Their PC components are very high quality, and their PC build program is fantastic. In fact, they built my last PC that I've been using for the past 2 years or so, and it looks great, and I've never had a single problem with it. Their PC build program is one of arguably the best pre-built PC program that you can use, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for kind of a pre-built PC that you can kind of customize to your liking. I would recommend NZXT for that all day long, but I just can't do that with this keyboard. The typing experience is average at best. It feels about as hollow as it sounds, and as far as acoustics are concerned, it does sound quite hollow, and those stabilizers are just bad. And the typing experience and the acoustics are two of the biggest deciding factors when you're buying a mechanical keyboard. Pretty much every keyboard on the market right now has at least 1000 hertz polling rate, very similar spec sheets. Where they really differ is their attention to detail and how their keyboards sound and feel, and this one just missed the mark, which is really strange to me, because especially if you go through their build program for the keyboard, you're already paying a $10 assembly charge. So as part of that fee, I would like to see them at the very least lube the stabilizers. That would cost them almost nothing, but maybe a few cents worth of lube and a couple of minutes of time, and that could go a long way to making these stabilizers a little bit better. Also, maybe a little bit of additional case foam or a higher density foam in their case, just to take away a little bit of that hollowness. I don't know if either of those things would make a substantial difference, but it would definitely help a little bit. The typing experience and acoustics out of this keyboard is more closely aligned with reviews that I've done keyboards on that have cost 60, 70 bucks. If this keyboard was close to half the price, we might be having a little bit of a different conversation here, but everybody is making mechanical keyboards right now, from big companies to small companies. So if you're dropping a new product, you've got to come out swinging. Just in the past few months alone, there have been some bangers that have been released. Just a few that come to my mind: the Ducky 1-3 series boards that were released late last year, early this year. All different sizes, 60%, 65% TKL full size. Those are far better keyboards than this one. No software option there, but they're also cheaper as well. The HyperX Alloy Origin 65 just released a few weeks ago. Excellent keyboard. Aluminum frame, great acoustics and typing experience, better keyboard than this at about the same price, if not a little cheaper. Even just a couple days ago, the GMMK2 was released from Glorious. Better acoustics, better typing experience, arguably better software. And that keyboard comes in a 65% for $120, or also $120 is their 96% keyboard, which is essentially a full-size keyboard just kind of smushed together a little bit, make it a little bit more compact. But you've got two good sizes there to choose from for 120 bucks, and it's just a better board. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it useful. If you did, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. If you guys want to continue seeing other content like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can be notified of when I post new content. And YouTube, we'll catch you later.